headlines. And top on the Daily Nation, Venezuelan with election stickers held at airport. Detectives were last evening investigating 3 men, among them a Venezuelan who flew into the country at midday from London carrying 16 rolls of election-related stickers in their luggage, even as the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission claimed all was well. We'll get into that on page 4. On the bottom here of the front page of the Daily Nation, Ruto Raila caught up in a zero-sum game as the two frontrunners go for each other's jugular and threaten to investigate and jail each other should they win this election. A dark cloud hangs over the first days of the post-Kenyatta future. Just 17 days to go to the August 9th elections. Both are promising populist moves to cut the prices of basic commodities, reduce the cost of credit, and dish out interest-free loans to the youth and small enterprises. All sounds hunky-dory until one checks those promises against the recovery framework laid out by the International Monetary Fund. Why the future is grim for whoever succeeds Kenyatta, that is on page 7, and the futility of this zero-sum game on page 14. I can see here they've highlighted the cost of energy. The International Monetary Fund has blocked Kenya from further cuts on electricity prices, citing a potential collapse of Kenya Power. Higher taxes. Treasury is seeking to set the minimum VAT rate at 12%. Pointing to an increase in taxes on goods such as fuel and cooking gas. And end of fuel subsidies. The IMF wants subsidy interventions stopped to ease pressure on the country's thinned resource envelope. And let's take a look at what is on the other pages. On page 2, Rishi Sunak making of another Obama in UK. Who is in the race to succeed outgoing Prime Minister Boris Johnson? That is on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation. Some good news here. Kenyan writer wins Kane Prize. Aiza Luhumio bags Continental honors for her short story 5 Years next Sunday, beating a record 267 entries. A picture of her here, and congratulations, Aiza. On page 4, I believe we come to that report on the IEBC. Yes, here it is. Venezuelan found with IEBC stickers detained at airport. The man who had just landed from the United Kingdom was found with materials in his bag. That report by Vincent Achuka. There was a statement released by the IEBC. If I could just capture their sentiments. They say that this brazen decision of the security authorities to arrest, detain, and confine in a solitary hideout the 3 personnel without jurisdiction is an exhibition of intimidation on hardworking persons who are keen to deliver a robust technology infrastructure for conduct of a credible, secure, and verifiable election. The Commission wishes to inform the public that the arrest and continued holding of the personnel has the inevitable effect of hampering the deployment of technology in the forthcoming general election. Technology plays a central role in elections, and the Commission wonders what the intention behind the holding of the technical personnel is meant to achieve. The Commission is concerned about this unjustified intimidation, harassment, and blackmail whatsoever, and demands the immediate release of the 3 employees of Smartmatic International BV. Now, they say, or rather the report is that they were arrested, and their persons, according to the IBC, responsible for the deployment and management of election technology infrastructure. According to the IBC, there were personnel of Smartmatic International BV, and despite the Commission Secretary and CEO explaining to the security authorities that the 3 personnel were in the country to execute a lawful contract relating to the deployment of technology in elections, they were still detained. All right, we'll get into that in a little bit. And now here, let me just minimize the screen. Ruto on Uhuru's unga price drop. It's too little, too late. He says move is a ploy to entice Kenyans to vote for Raila in next month's elections. 4.1 million Kenyans in arid lands battle food shortage. That is according to the IMF. Lenders says many struggling to put food on the table due to worsening climatic conditions. 20 billion. National Treasury allocated this amount to emergency drought and security intervention in the supplementary budget for 2021-2022 financial year. IMF's bitter pill for Uhuru's successor. What conditions mean for you? It has approved, that is, IMF has approved an additional 28 billion lending to Kenya, but with a raft of unpopular demands. Gachagua fights to reclaim 1.5 billion land near airport. He has sued a retired civil servant, John Ohas, over a parcel of land near JKIA. And here is a picture of the the Madeira Member of Parliament, Rigathi Gachagua, who says the land is currently charged at Equity Bank over a loan of 200 million shillings. Gachagua says he bought the land for 24 million from a Mr. Peter Nduati and Ms. Pauline Muringe, who owned it through Karindi Farm Limited. All right, drive to promote tourism in East Africa launched, and here we go. The presidential debate slated for July the 26th, Tuesday, July the 26th, 2022, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we saw there in that report by Ibrahim Karanja that the deputy president has said he will participate, but with some conditions. And I think we'll leave the Daily Nation at that point. I will be engaging my panelists on what the reduction in unga means, those IMF conditions in the cost of unga, I mean. Zero-sum game, Ruto and Raila now go for each other's jugular. Kenya Kwanza and Azimio have threatened to investigate or jail opponents if elected in the August 9th polls. New poll shows close gubernatorial races. I can see here by popularity in Mombasa, ODM's Abdul Swamad Ali leads pack with popularity rating of 50%. That is on page 15 of the Daily Nation. Obado's PA claimed Sharon was his lover. Witness says Oyamo also said he was the father of Sharon's unborn child. That's in the Daily Nation as well. Now let's take a look at the front page of the Standard. And it's a report on the same report that Sydney Chizima did on Stadia and the race for where to hold said last campaign rallies. Locked out in venues battle. The battle for prime rally venues in Nairobi took a twist yesterday after DP William Ruto's team was informed that Nyayo Stadium, which it had booked and paid for, would not be available, and neither would Kasarani. This even as Junet Mohammed insisted Azimio would hold its final campaign call at Nyayo Stadium. And I can see down here, General Kibochi, first CDF to graduate with PhD. Ballot chances dim further for Ruben Kigame. And at the top here, so who kills Willie Kimani? The court decides. As we mentioned in the news diary, that judgment being delivered today. Front page of the Business Daily, Kenya disowns port deal. Promises made to Dubai. DP World says Kenya promised a tender notice in July. Treasury denies talk of call for bids to run local ports. You will recall that Kenya Kwanza claimed to have blown the whistle on this port deal, saying a sovereign entity was being put in the hands of a foreign entity. Okay, that is on the front page of the Business Daily. Front page of the Star. Gachagua embroiled in a 1.5 billion shilling city property row, says official fraudulently changed land ownership details. I think I mentioned that is in the Daily Nation as well. And pictures here of Kenyans scrambling at retailers to purchase unga after the price dropped from about 220 shillings to 100 shillings thereabouts. Tight spot, polling stations with no network in 34 counties. And Ruto team mulls court action in Nyayo standoff. That is all on the front page of the Star. And finally, I think let's wind up with Taifa Leo. And the headline here is Uhuru Atandikia Raila Mkeka, I beg your pardon. And bei ya unga ya shuka. I see soko la miraa lafunguliwa, majaji wa rufaa kuteuliwa bila kusita, ruzuku ya bei ya mafuta, and afanya kampeni mtaani. Basically, I understand it to mean that Uhuru Kenyatta has rolled out the red carpet for Raila Odinga by improving the economic conditions ahead of the general election. Ulinisaliti, Ruto sasa ambia rais, asema livunja ahadi kumunga mkono katika uchaguzi mkuu, and afueni bei ya unga ikiteremka. All right, I think we'll leave the newspaper review there and take a break. When we come back, I engage my panelists on the Kenya we want, going off of what we've just reviewed on the papers. Welcome back. As the screen indicated today, this morning, platform for the young people. I'm joined by several new faces, at least for me, and some more familiar, including Sylvia Katua, who is a program officer at Mzalendo Trust, Sylvia Morwabe, who is a program manager at Crime Sipwa, Samuel Masaki, correct? Yes. Who is the Youth for Kenya Kwanza presidential campaign coordinator. Yes. And we're also joined by Steve Ogutu. Steve, you're a communication and development specialist. Karibuni sana. So just get your thoughts on this latest development as far as the arrest of who the IEBC says are 3 election officials. The authorities are not so convinced, given they were found in possession of election stickers, according to the front page of the Daily Nation. I'll start with you, Steve. What do you make of this development?
Right. So, Olive, thank you very much for having me this morning on this great show. And to say that, you know, we are in a very sensitive period as a country. And, you know, IEBC is in the limelight right now. And the role that they are playing in this election, no doubt, is very key. And depending on how they handle things, I mean, we have seen how certain actions by IEBC, the consequences of certain actions by IEBC in the past. And my hope is that the person who was arrested at the airport, that there's really nothing fishy going on. Of course, based on the IEBC reports, let's trust that what the IEBC is saying is true, and that investigations will be conducted, and we'll get to know, you know, what the motive really was in all this.
Okay. Yeah. What do you make of the events, Samuel?
Thank you so much, first, for hosting me. I think it's something that we really need to think of as a country, and this is actually degenerating as a country, because the IEBC made communication through the CEO to the official at the airport that they were expecting these visitors, and these are people who actually are going to be part and parcel of this process of the transmission of election results from where they're being tallied up to the national level. So I think it is clearly that we need to rethink ourselves and offer the support that the IEBC need as a country. And just to say that as a country, we are actually moving, or we are headed in a wrong direction, as per se. Because if you see in some of these failed African states, whereby everything has to be designed around an individual called the president, okay? And this thing of trying to intimidate the IEBC to go or to move in one direction is going to pull this country into a very wrong direction. So it is important that those officials who are arrested and who are part of this procurement process, actually the procurement officials for the company that procured the KIMS kit, they should actually be released, and they let these people, the IEBC has the mandate in the Constitution to perform this obligation. So let them be allowed in the country, and so that we can be able to have a proper transition and proper electioneering period, because we trust in the process of IEBC.
Okay.
Yes.
These gentlemen, Sylvia M and Sylvia K, seem to be on the same page as far as this. They're saying leave IEBC to conduct its business. Sylvia M, do you consider this as intimidation?
First of all, thank you so much for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. For just looking at what is happening, what I'm reading into it mostly is when we get into election, we have seen before that I'm hoping that this is not just an idea of maybe spreading fear, that because we've always had the narrative that elections are stolen. So maybe it's something to be able to propagate that, and I'm hoping that that is not the case. What maybe I would now call for is let's have an open mind. Let's not come into it as if we're already blaming one side or trying to protect the other, but let the investigation be free and fair, so that we can be able to know, is it really the just procurement material that was being brought out, or is it a ploy to be able to just steal the elections, as we call it here in this country? But at this point, I can't say that it's a fight against IEBC. I can't say that for sure, but I can be able to maybe just say let's watch, let's see, let's let the investigation take its course, and let's not use it to create fear in the rest of Kenyans that whatever it is, because now that will create doubt whether they were free and fair just because of what has happened right now.
Okay, so you're saying let the investigations take their
Yes.
course. All right, Sylvia K.
Hi, Olive. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me once again. I think IBC's issue out of all this is public communication, poor public communication. And this is something that I've said before. Because we've had issues with IBC's procurement before, not issues with the procurement, but with how they're communicating it and the timelines. And if you actually read the story, you'll notice that the airport officials are saying that they were not informed by IBC that these materials would be coming, and they're actually questioning why this would be coming through a personal, in a personal capacity, as opposed to coming through sealed boxes. That is the question. And instead of IBC coming out clearly and saying, okay, 1, 2, 3, they released a statement, we've seen it, but it's very vague. It's not adequate enough to answer all the questions that Kenyans have. And this is something that we've seen before. And as civil society, we have repeatedly called out IBC for its lack of, I wouldn't say transparency, but the kind of communication that it's consistently putting out is not strong. It's not addressing all the issues being raised, not only even about procurement, but even if you think about the polling stations you've spoken about, in the 32 counties that have issues, in the counties, I don't know how many they are, but have issues with the coverage. If you recall in the last...
I think I saw on the star says 34.
Yes, 34. And in the last election, okay, I think there are about 11,000 polling stations, 11,000.
1111.
Yes. So you can imagine those kind of polling stations increased. First of all, polling stations were increased, if you recall. IBC released, and it was after public outcry that they came ahead and gave why and how many polling stations in each county were increased. Secondly, this issue of 4G coverage has still not been sufficiently covered. There were regulations brought forward in Parliament, but I think Parliament shut them down. And so this is a consistent issue that was in the previous election and has not yet been addressed in this election. I think it's for IBC to have proper public channels to address the public, because if you do not allay public fears, then these issues that keep cropping up, as my colleagues have mentioned, will continue being questioned, will continue being raised. And then again, that goes back to the lack of public confidence in IBC. And if IBC officials come forward and say, okay, 1, 2, 3, if you even look at the kind of questions that are asked to the IBC commissioners and even the officials generally by the press and how they're answered, there's not that confidence that they're giving the people. They're not assuaging public fears, if I can say that. And this is something that IBC needs to work. We have about 18 days to the elections. We still don't know what's going on. When we wake up and find such a headline, it's concerning. I mean, this is something that they need to take into consideration and work on their public communication. So I think for me, the main issue is communication.
All right. So Sylvia Katua says it's not good enough to say, take us at our word, gentlemen. She says they need to really pull up their socks in engendering public confidence by way of